The Warm Springs Reservation is located in Oregon, south of the Columbia River and between the Cascade and Blue Mountain ranges. In 1855, the U.S. government seized 10 million acres from the reservation. Of the 10 million acres, only 640,000 were left for the tribes, less than a tenth of their original land. The government wanted to get the Indians off the land and to get space to build railroads.
The government gave them $200,000 for the land and allowed the tribes the right to keep harvesting fish and other game on lands outside of the reservation. So many migrated to Camp Polk, Cross Keys, or Big Oven, which were a couple of towns away from their reservation on the south and east. There was no joy about this forced move. But even with the loss of land, the tribes wanted to keep hunting and sustain their livelihood as a nation. The tribes included the Wasco, Warm Springs, and Paiute tribe, who came in 1877 after the land loss.
After the land was taken from Warm Springs, government agents showed the tribes where their new boundaries would be. The reservation was not satisfied with the amounts of land that the government gave to them. So between 1859 and 1887, the Indians took part in surveys to reestablish the territory boundaries through the Court of Claims. When the actual boundaries were created, there were two surveys, one by Hadley and one by McQuinn, each with different boundary lines.
It took 17 years for the Indians to get a hearing, and for more than 100 years, there was a dispute about which survey was correct and how much land the Indians were going to get back. Finally, in 1971, as a result of Public Law 92-427, the northern and western boundaries were settled on the Indians' terms. It restored 61,360 acres that had been in Mount Hood and Willamette National Forests and put another 17,251 acres of privately owned land inside the Warm Springs Reservation. It took all of these years to give back to the Indians the land that is and always has been theirs.
A source from the Warm Springs Reservation said that even though they have gotten land back, they will never be safe from the government and people taking advantage of them. The Warm Springs Reservation is thriving now as a sovereign community with their own government and ways of life. Despite more than a century of assimilation programs and the gradual loss of most of their land base, the Warm Springs of Oregon persevere. There has been a notable revival of Native culture and political sovereignty since the 1960s and 1970s, a time when federal policy shifted from termination to self-determination. Although the Warm Springs in Oregon still faces many challenges, the state's tribes have been growing in influence in recent years, and some are increasing their land base for the first time in recent history.